What is up, everybody? Welcome back to our channel, hashtag Criminently. We have Arctic Fox, True Crime, on the panel today, and we have Garnett.
Hello, everyone.
Hello,
So,
hello.
how are you guys doing today?
Oh, it's one of those days. It's just I'm not understanding the world, and today we're talking about confessions and the amount of false confessions that sometimes we get.
And also the shady tactics that police use to get these false confessions.
Exactly. So, I'm just going to read a little bit from Wikipedia. I'm going to sort of condense it, just to let's talk about the different kinds. First, there's the voluntary false confession, and that's where usually a mental health illness or something plays into effect, and they confess voluntarily for whatever reason, but they didn't actually do the crime. Then you have the coerced compliant confession, and those confessions are the results of coercion. It's interrogation techniques used by the police. The suspects may be interviewed for hours on end, and sometimes without a lawyer or family members present. Even if they,
A good example of that would be if you've watched Making a Murderer, the Brennan Dassey confession.
Yes.
exactly. And then you have coerced internalized confessions. These confessions are those in which a person is so affected by the interrogation process, they come to believe that they have actually committed the crime. So, the police actually convince them that they've done this. So then their mind makes it work that they have done it. If we go back to the coerced, the police used a technique called the Reid technique, and that's an interesting technique, and it was used. Give me 2 seconds because I don't want to get this wrong. The Reid technique of interrogating suspects was first introduced in the United States in the 1940s and 50s by former police officer John Reid. It was intended to replace the beatings that police frequently used to get information. The technique involves a nine-step process. The first step involves directly confronting the suspect with a statement that it is known that he or she committed the crime. This would usually involve frequent interruptions when the suspect tried to speak. So what they do is they say, "You did this," and then they don't give you a chance to speak.
Yeah.
Researchers have found that the police interrogators only allow people to speak for an average of 5.8 seconds before they interrupted. Often the police lie and describe non-existent evidence that points to the suspect as the offender. In the second step, the police present a hypothesis about why the suspect committed the crime. This explanation minimizes the moral implications of the alleged offense or allows a suspect to save face by having a morally acceptable excuse for committing the crime. The Reid technique went on to become the leading interrogation method used by law enforcement throughout the United States,
Good
and
morning, Sixth Sense. Sorry.
and, and led to countless confessions in recent years. Justice researchers found that not all of these confessions were legitimate and deemed that the technique primarily relies on deception, coercion, aggressive confrontation to secure these confessions. Despite this, in 2014, it was still popular with police interrogators, even though subjects provide less information and the strategy provides fewer true confessions and more false confessions. So it's basically that they're going to bully you into, and
Good morning.
sadly, Wikipedia only listed 2 of the techniques, but from what I would say, my opinion is they also divide you away from your family, sort of isolate you, um, and it's really just that, lies and deception to get you to say what they want you to say.
Yeah, I mean, we have suspects that are unsure, like about, what to do when they're called in. A lot of people, they don't get a lawyer as well because they will think it makes them look guilty or.
I tell you all the time, I don't care if the police come knock on my door
Yes.
now. I can't talk to you without my lawyer. We need to get my lawyer here. That's the first thing. And I don't care what it makes me look like. I have never done anything seriously wrong in my life. But I'm telling you, they come knock on my door. I need a lawyer.
Yeah, and I mean this like the uncertainty, it can make things easier for the police as well. Like they prey on these people's lack of legal knowledge, and just vulnerability. It's definitely sad, some of the tactics they use. And we are going through a case, or we cover a case all the time on Kyron Horman. That's why we started this. We have a Facebook group, and it happens all the time where they bring these people in and it seems like they just want the case over with so they don't have to deal anymore. But then again, it's like, okay, so what about where's the real justice? I mean,
yes, what if that confession is not true? Then you have somebody out there walking the street
yeah,
that actually did the crime. I understand they want to solve a case, but at what cost?
exactly.
Well, I
I
mean, they use tactics like they'll tell people that they failed a polygraph test, even when they never failed a polygraph test, and they'll feed people bits of information about the case so that it'll come across as if they had this inside knowledge. So
I watched a show one time, and I can't tell you because I watch a ton of them. But they wrote up a letter from a kid's mother. Now I say kid, he was late teens, early 20s, and they wrote a letter from his mother telling him that he needed to confess.
Oh my God.
To him, and he confessed.
Oh God.
Now why? How is that morally correct at all? I mean, it turned out that the kid was innocent and that he should have never, but for God's sakes, that's the lengths they'll go to.
It's definitely a sad, sad situation. I mean, we want the right person locked up where it's going to continue to happen. And then you have a person whose whole life is ruined, all because the police just want any kind of confession.
well, yeah, they're too concerned about sticking the case in the closed file than actually finding the person that actually committed the crime.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, look at the Brendan Dassey interview if you haven't watched Making a Murderer, y'all, because this kid, he obviously suffers from some intellectual defects. He's got learning disabilities, and he was interrogated for hours and hours and hours on end. No lawyer present, no parents present, and they just basically browbeat this kid into making a confession.
Happens quite frequently with people with low IQs. That they do it quite frequently. And that's very, very sad because why? It's not only that the police are being lazy about their job, but sometimes they form tunnel vision, and in their hearts, even with, I've seen cases even where they've come out and shown DNA later, where the police believe in their hearts that they
Hey,
truly
America,
have the
True
right
Crime.
person,
Hey, Chris. Thank you guys for joining.
when in fact, years later, DNA says this is not the right person. They form that tunnel vision and then they can't let go of it.
Yeah. I
It's
think
true.
that,
I mean, a lot of it is because they stereotype people as well in many of these cases. And,
Absolutely.
I mean,
you
what
know,
about the Central Park Five? You know,
Yeah.
they did a lot of time and they messed them up so badly when they interrogated them. They were doing literally everything they could just to get that confession. And these poor people, they just lost their whole life sitting in, they were doing what they did, what, 36 years, I think?
yeah, yeah. And that's why for the
Or no.
longest time, and I still do struggle with the death penalty. I mean, I feel like if you kill someone, you need to pay with your life. But at the same time, you've got these false confession cases. And there have been cases where people who made these false confessions because they were beat to death in the interrogation room, just made to suffer, and they felt like their only chance of getting out of that interrogation room was to make a false confession. There's been cases where they've been put to death for their false confession.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I always
Absolutely.
wonder, like I'll go back and think, yeah, it's Arctic. Um, I mean, they're dead now, but I wonder how many people have been killed and it wasn't them. They were innocent. Like we would never really know unless somebody got caught for the crime or DNA. I mean,
Go back into the 40s and 50s,
mhm.
there's a whole lot of that, because it was just easier. The racial divide, it was just easier.
Yep. I definitely think that there should be some kind of change. Like we were talking the other day, Garnett, and um I
Well,
have
I
to
think
be
it
against.
starts, and I truly believe this, and I know it would make the police's job so much harder. But I think it starts with a moral responsibility to not be able to make up stories and lie and say whatever you want to. The courts hold people accountable for lying and whatnot on the stand, yet a policeman can say or do whatever he wants to get you to confess. And I think that right there is the start of an issue.
Um, America brought up a good. She said I have to be against death because it's too flawed. And I'm all for the death penalty, but thinking about all of this now, and I definitely think that there should be truly like hard evidence, DNA, something to actually be sure that this person committed the crime. I don't think that.
And that's the thing. Today we have a lot of ways to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that somebody did something. We have DNA. We have tons of videos. There's so much evidence. So I think that in a case where, um, that it's undisputable that you had to have done this, I'm okay with the death penalty. But undisputable. What's that?
Oh no, I'm trying to put a wrench for Chris and I put on the YouTube on the tablet.
Oh.
It's nothing. um it's Garnett Sixth Sense. So this channel it is always going to be myself, Garnett, Arctic checking convictions, or other people come on, but it's also just this is myself and Garnett's channel. So that's who the third is. Why can't I add a wrench? Okay, I'm sorry, Garnett. What were you saying?
Just that I do feel that, you know, um, uh, I thought I fully supported the death penalty until my grandson passed. And with his case, that made me. I don't know that the death penalty would help me, but I would have liked to have seen them spend the rest of their lives in jail. So the death penalty, I'm really on the ledge there. Sometimes I'm all for it, and other times I'm like, let's just keep them in jail forever. Like, I want to keep them in jail forever. I want to plaster their cells with his pictures. I really want to do like some major psychological damage, I guess.
Well, I think that if they did something like, where did Arctic go again? Arctic
Well, I
keeps
know
leaving us. Why do you keep leaving us?
Every time I go to like tap on another screen on my phone, I get booted out of the freaking chat. So, or
I'm
out of
glad I'm
Oh my
not
God,
the
my
only
phone's
one on
dying. Hey, don't hang up because I gotta come back on. Ah.
So, like, I used to be really, really anti-death penalty, but as good as the DNA technology has become, I've gotten more comfortable with it because in today's day and age, with as accurate as the DNA is, in the cases where DNA pretty much 100% proves that this cat is the one that committed the murder, I'm all for the death penalty. Now, if there's not DNA evidence supporting that fact, then I'm not so much on board with it.
Right, right. DNA, catch them on camera, then there is no questions about who did this. But if there's a question, well, let's put them in, I don't know. But like I said, I do think that they should have to tell the truth about what they're speaking when they're interrogating somebody. I don't think that they should be able to hold them for hours. I don't think that they should intentionally try to break up the family and their support systems. Once again, people, hey, I don't care what they're asking you. You need a lawyer right from jump. Don't think they're your friends. They are not your friends.
Well, and especially with the cases of minors and people suffering from intellectual disabilities, they shouldn't be allowed to do an interrogation at all without a family member or an attorney present.
Absolutely, I agree. I feel that if you are not mentally at a normal IQ level, you should have to have a representative with you.
And like I said, I mean, they're too concerned about putting these cases in the closed pile than they are about finding who actually did it. And I'm not saying that it's that way with all law enforcement agencies because there are some good cops out there, but all too often
Yep.
we do see where they're just really concerned about shutting the books and putting it in the closed pile. And it's a shame. It really is. There's a lot of innocent people that spend years and years and years in jail only to have their case overturned. And then some of these states, they're actually enacting laws to where after these people get out after being incarcerated and losing 30, 40 years of their life, they're actually trying to pass laws to where these people can't sue for their time that they've been locked up and file lawsuits against the agent.
Right, right. Well, and not only the ones that have been arrested, but what about these ones that have went years, even if they're not listed as a suspect, but the public has been led to believe that they are, with the internet and Facebook and social medias of all sorts, we tend to form our own opinions, and we have seen time and time again. We're watching it right now, where people are taking this stuff and without fact harassing and stalking, and it's shocking and appalling at what length the general public will go, thinking they have some sort of right to harass people.
Yeah,
Well,
it's happening.
and a lot of that goes to the integrity of the creators that are putting this content out. I think we saw it most recently in the Quentin Simon case, where you have a creator releasing messages that are private between her and a grandmother. And now the more information that comes out, the more it looks like that was a ploy by the grandmother, because they knew that this creator would release the messages. And, there's actually a lot of thought that Quentin may not be in a landfill at all. I was talking with another creator last night, and there's a possibility that, and I'm not saying that it's fact. I mean, it's just something that's been talked about between creators, that Leilani handed Quentin off to someone, and he may not even be deceased at all.
Yeah.
Right.
And we have all these people, these creators outside of their house. Like, what good is that going to do? All the harassing, this bullhorn Betty or Boop, whatever the freak her name is, out there with, like, what good is that
want
going to
you
do?
to stop and think about this. Now, what would you do if your parents happened to have a house across from one of these people's houses, and they had to deal with these people 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning out there with bullhorns and yelling and screaming and carrying on? I mean, trust me, this family's actions are shady, but at the same point, I get that pettiness too. You're accusing me of something, and I'm just gonna live my life.
Here's the thing: what happens in these cases, and we've seen it time and time again. Especially with Bullhorn Betty and Molly Golightly and JLR and all of them. They go out there, they sit there, and they do their fucking protests outside the house. They stir up a bunch of bullshit on YouTube. And it interferes with the integrity of the investigation.
Absolutely.
Yes, I realize people are upset, especially after the fucking message got released, that there's been no arrest made in this case, and that the grandma and the mom are just walking free. But did it ever occur to anyone that maybe, just maybe, law enforcement has information that you all don't have, and they're holding that information back because they're trying to protect the integrity of the investigation? There's a lot of shit that goes on in these cases that people just don't fucking know.
Exactly.
And
I totally agree with that.
No, we shouldn't know all of it.
A lady was arguing with us on Facebook the other day. Well, with me, and I tagged Arctic because he's really good at, the phone calls, calling the police station. And I'm trying to explain, like, this does more than harassing the suspect or whatever, because you're making phone calls, like getting LE to get off their asses and do something. I mean, it's better than, going out there harassing, making all this noise, possibly putting someone in danger, neighbors, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to call the law enforcement, especially when you see that they're not doing a damn thing to find a missing child. But I have never said, hey, you need to go out there and protest outside the damn police station with your bullhorns and shit. That does nothing to help the case. There's a way to go about things, and people are going about it the wrong way.
America True Crime said, what made Ellie think he was unalive? Just the grandma saying that?
I don't know what made him think for sure that he was unalive. I do know that the grandma's messages getting released is what prompted them to do a press conference in the middle of the night the way that they did.
Exactly. Like, that was crazy to me, and it was definitely forced on their part, and that's sad. That's sad, because how much further along would they be if they hadn't felt forced to make this public.
Did dogs hit on the landfill? I am not sure on that. I have not heard that. Have you guys?
I haven't heard anything about dogs hitting on the landfill for certain, but here's the deal. Inevitably, let's just face facts. I bet you if you went to about 70% of the landfills in this country, the dogs would hit on them because people do crazy shit. So
absolutely.
So all we can do is wait until, Ellie gives an update and just, leave it at that. Pray freaking, if you feel like he's alive, like at least, okay, you can go volunteer yourself and go look, but there's no evidence or proof to where he would be. So, all we could do is just pray. But harassing, going over there, I live like 40, maybe 35 minutes or something away from there. But you don't see me over there in front of these freaking people's houses doing all this extra stuff. It's ridiculous. It doesn't help.
No, it doesn't, and it hurts the integrity of the case. Let's play devil's advocate for a minute here. Let's say that Quentin isn't even deceased, that he got handed off to someone or something like that. Or worst case scenario, Leilani needed drug money and sold Quentin to someone. Let's say that that's the case. Well, here we've wasted all this valuable time to actually be looking for a live kid because of this rumor that got put out on social media that the kid was dead.
Right. So much of that. So much of that.
And they're just going to keep recording and keep talking about this and keep speculating. And I mean, I see every creator speaking about the Quentin case, but where are they getting this information? Like, all it is speculation, and they're all doing it. That's all they talk about is this, whatever gets them views.
To me, in little Quentin's case, I do feel like the police are trying to be responsible. They're trying to, I don't believe that they are just sitting on their hunches doing nothing. I think that they're trying to, and once again, the public is making it to where it's 10 times harder than it should be for these police officers.
It really is.
Exactly. I mean, because they are investigating. That's the thing. The cases where I tell people, hey, blow up the phone lines, shoot up their emails, contact every press agency you can, are the cases where there's not any action being taken by law enforcement at all, where you've clearly got a kid. Like one of the cases was this kid that was kidnapped. The parents told, or the mother told law enforcement exactly who kidnapped the kid because the same person had taken this kid 3 other times, and law enforcement wouldn't even go over there and look for the child. Those are the cases where I tell people, hey, this is a call to action. I need you to raise a fuss with law enforcement. But in cases like Michael Monkey Vaughn's case, where Fruitland PD is doing everything they can to find the kid, no, I don't want anyone calling up that police station and harassing them because they're clearly doing everything they can to try to find Michael.
Exactly. I mean, Lucian's case as well. Like, we just went over this on your channel, and the aunt was on there, and like that's a case where people can make calls.
Because they just stepped out and sort of let it hang at 2 or 3 days?
I think it was 4 days. I mean, they said that they were scared because there were homeless people that could get violent and there were wild animals in the area and . And the biggest issue that I have in that case is that they never took the possibility of abduction seriously when you've got this kid that goes missing from a park, which is a playground for predators. And then you've got it happening in Yakima, which is one of the highest trafficking areas, especially among indigenous people, and they don't even take the possibility of abduction seriously.
Yeah.
Right. These are cases that we need to say. We're going to cover a case, Brandon Embry. His mother has been begging since 2019 for the police to do something, and they They absolutely have done nothing. Those are cases where we need to say, "Hey, what are you doing? Why are you doing nothing?"
If you guys have
But
never heard of that case, Arctic Fox just put a video the other day, and he goes into basically everything. He did very, very well, and you guys should go definitely check out that video.
It's very lengthy, so grab yourself some popcorn and beer and sit back for a while. But I wanted to get as much information about the case, and I didn't even cover everything. There is so much more that I
right,
wasn't able to get in there, and the video was almost 2 hours long. So
I know, but you
and,
basically you got everything. Just there's a lot of twists and turns. There's a lot of it, but he did. I think you got everything basically.
I mean, we are going to sit down with the mom and speak. I just have to get time where we're not all crazy, and during the week it's very hard because I work. So it makes it very hard for us.
Yes, but you guys, yeah, we wanted to go over this like the techniques they use, the false confessions and all that, because it kind of goes into, I mean, a lot of cases that we cover, especially what we're going to go into a deep dive with Terry Horman and Dee Dee, and on the Kyron Horman case. So we're going to put a video out soon, and it's going to be like really, really long, but this kind of explains some of the techniques they
Why we don't just blindly believe that because the police focus on one person, that it's necessarily the way it is. We definitely believe that, I definitely believe that there are a lot of coercions in that case.
I thought
So,
Sixth Sense said pooping in my hand. Sorry. Oh my God. She said her cat keeps booping her hand every time she tries to touch. I'm like, wait, pooping.
well, in Terry's case and in the Kyron case, a lot of the problem there with the speculation and everything is that a lot of misinformation got leaked, and a lot of that misinformation sadly came from law enforcement. So it's crazy.
yes,
Or
yes.
or was at least rumored to have come from law enforcement. We don't know. I mean, I honestly think that some of these creators will say that law enforcement said something even when they didn't, just to stir the narrative. They put false information out, and they don't care about how it hurts the integrity of the case. They don't care about how it hurts these family members. They just don't. They don't care. All they care about in so many of these cases is generating as many clicks and views as they can.
Yeah.
Right. And with Kyron's case, I truly think that it was like one of the early cases that's led to these poor creators like we're seeing in Quentin's case. It's just growing over the last 12 years, because in Kyron's case, Facebook and all of that was just getting really big. So we see now the degree that we went to with YouTube and with all these other social medias, how much the public has been able to get in and interfere, and not always helpful. I mean, don't get me wrong, guys. I do think that there are creators out there that cases would not be solved if we didn't keep people moving on them, but we should be responsible when we're out here talking.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you want to put information out, that's great. But put the information out that you're getting either directly from law enforcement, either directly from the family. And I'm not talking about releasing messages that
Right.
haven't been vetted or anything yet. And also, reputable press sources are great sources of information. Um, you've got to be careful how you vet those too. Don't put shit that you see on daily news out, because that's not a reputable news source. But generally speaking, your local papers and stuff, they get their information directly from law enforcement as well. So if you see it in the local paper, that's generally a pretty good source of information.
Right. I usually try to confirm anything that I'm going to state as fact with at least 2 or 3 different reputable news sources.
Exactly. I mean, in a lot of these cases, we speak to families and stuff, and it does get hard when you can't say certain things without trying to find something on it. That does make it really, really hard. But, especially cases that have been out there for a while that haven't been solved. But it's a difference, you can't just go around
It's
stating your
still being
opinion.
responsible with the information you're given.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's one thing to speculate on a case, but you need to word it correctly. I mean, you need to say, in my opinion, this is what I feel may have happened. You know, also, when I'm saying that I think someone, or in my opinion, someone was involved in the case, I always preface it by saying, and we need to remember that all people are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law.
Right.
However, this is, the actions that this person has taken certainly makes them look suspect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because we can all have an opinion. We can all speculate, but it should just be known that this is not a fact. This is not, this is how I feel. This is my personal opinion on the subject.
You're welcome, Six. I don't know where you are or what country you're in, but laws are different, in different countries and different places, but I feel everything should be the same, and they should definitely come up with some kind of better system. I mean, we already know you can't go as far as some of these police do to get a confession, but what can we do to stop that?
Well, I mean, it's going to take reformation of laws and standardizing the criteria of what can and can't be done in order to get a confession throughout the
Mm-hmm.
United States. There's got to be rules and regulations put in place that standardizes the criteria for confessions throughout the country. But again, we're going to run into problems with that because we've got this thing, even though we're called the United States, where states have states' rights and they pretty much go by their own doctrine, which is why we can't get the Amber Alert system reformed the way it should be, which is why CPS is such a clusterfuck, because there's different rules and regulations in every fucking state.
Exactly. Oh, you guys
I want to
also
say, I just want to say this. You never know when a tragedy is going to strike your family. You do not know. And you might think you live in this perfect bubble that it can't ever touch you. But the most important thing you can do is, if you're in that situation, even if you feel you're completely innocent, there's no way, don't talk to them without an attorney. I know attorneys are expensive, but at least have one there just for that initial talk with them. You can't. It's the only way to protect yourself.
Well,
Yeah.
and they have to provide you with counsel if you request it. If you're unable to afford an attorney, they have to provide you with that. So all you have to do is say, hey, I'm not saying a word to you until I've got an attorney present.
Right. And we as creators should not jump on the bandwagon. Oh, they got a lawyer, so they're guilty. That is not the case. And that's irresponsible on us to assume.
Yeah.
Because they got a lawyer, they're guilty. That's not the case.
It's not, and I'm guilty of it sometimes. I mean, especially in cases where, the wife goes missing and immediately the husband lawyers up. It does look suspect. And it's hard to get out of that mindset because we a lot of it is been inbred in us for
Yeah.
years and years in all the movies and all the TV shows. Hey, the husband lawyered up, he's guilty.
Yeah.
Right, right. But I think turning that narrative around is important, and us as creators should try to do better. Just because a family lawyers up doesn't mean that they're guilty. I mean, if there's other evidence that's saying, hey, there's other stuff going on, but that should not be our main reason for saying somebody's guilty.
Oh, and I agree. And I'm working on that. I mean, I try not to say that just because someone lawyered up. Usually, if I say, in my opinion, I feel like someone is involved in, say, a murder or a person's disappearance, it's because of their actions, the way that they're acting, the things that they have done prior in their life that make them look suspect. There's got to be some basis for it before I'll even say that, in my opinion, I feel like they may be involved.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
and look at Lilani. She still hasn't even got a lawyer. And at this point, guilty or innocent, like I would have had to get a lawyer. People are standing outside of my house. People are, everywhere on the internet, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. With all this stuff, it's definitely dangerous. And I would have definitely lawyered up by now. Police here read the Miranda and organize legal counsel immediately. Oh, wow. So before they're even interrogated, they get counsel. That's something they should do here.
I mean, I'll give you an example. When the Kylie Rodney case was going on, I was one of the ones guilty of throwing shade on Sammy. And my reasoning for that wasn't because she lawyered up. It was because of her actions. She had inserted herself front and center in that case from day one. Yeah. She had said that people needed to submit their tips through her instead of through law enforcement. There was a lot of really shady stuff that was going on that made me think that she had been involved somehow. Now,
I never thought she was involved.
See, I did. I thought she was.
I know you were like telling me, and I was like, it is weird that she's doing all this, but
right. Why would you put yourself? I mean, but then again, people don't understand that 15 minutes of fame sometimes comes at a really high cost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I said it was one of two things. Either she was looking for her 15 minutes of fame or she was involved in whatever happened. So.
And I absolutely think it was the 15 minutes of fame, but, it definitely could have went very wrong for her.
Yeah, because lots of people were like, she had something to do with it, the friends, everybody. But it's just like you said, you see how people act, you see what they have done, or it's just, it all boils down to how they act afterwards, after something happens. But we can't really go off of that. Like with Terry Horman, everyone says, well, look, she didn't even shed a tear. She didn't, but there's so many things, and we're going to get into all that.
Yes, I'm not doing it today because I've got to get ready for work.
I know. Okay. Does anyone have anything else to say?
Well, I want to say that, when we look at these cases and we start to cover them, and Terry's a good example, everyone deals with grief differently. And some people are in just such shock that while it may not seem to you that they're emotional over what happened to their loved one, sometimes they're just in such shock they don't even know what to think. They can't cry. They can't do anything. They're just they're numb.
The morning that I found out that Orion passed, I never cried. I ran through town in the middle of February without shoes or a coat, but I never cried. I didn't cry until later. I didn't cry until they made me call my daughter and tell her she had to call CYS. They wouldn't let me tell her. That's when I cried. But I ran clear through my little town in the middle of February with no coat or shoes.
That's where Barbie gets it.
Because I had to get there, and my mind couldn't focus on anything, even finding a coat and shoe. I needed to be where they were at. So and even getting a ride didn't cross my mind until I'm sitting in the CYS office with blankets wrapped around me, and they're asking me if I'm okay, because I know they thought I was crazy. They thought I went over the deep end.
Said shock. Yeah, you definitely were in shock at that time. So, you don't know what you would do in that position or.
Well, and a lot of it's not just shock, but a lot of it's disbelief. A lot of them can't come to terms with the fact that this is actually real, that this is actually happening.
Yes, because you're absolutely sure this has got to be a nightmare. I'm going to wake up at any minute.
Exactly.
So we should never base opinions on the way somebody reacts. You don't know until you're there.
Yep, very well said.
And I hope that nobody ever has to be there again, but I guarantee you tomorrow somebody will be there.
Exactly. Well, you guys, do you guys have anything else you want to say?
I am good. I always enjoy our conversations. I love sharing my opinion with everybody and giving my side, and you guys always provide a great sounding board.
Thanks for having me on panel. It's always a pleasure to be up here. And, guys, I really hope that you will really start thinking about the creators that you follow and that you support, because until we stop feeding into these creators that are doing the nefarious activity for clicks and views, if you stop watching them, if you don't subscribe to them, they're going to go away. They're not going to make money.
Yeah, you can't feed into the drama. You can't, if you like drama, watch a TV show, watch a novella. Like, go, don't get it from these creators that are out here putting a false narrative on every single thing, or, just wanting views. It takes a lot of people to get somebody off or to cancel somebody. I mean, as long as this person is making drama and people are subscribing, they're just gonna be allowed to do whatever.
They're gonna make more drama and create more havoc. I mean, we got to let the police have an opportunity to work these cases, and we make it harder by inserting ourselves into them.
There's a time to insert yourself in a case. Exactly. Well, not to insert yourself in a case, but to put the pressure on law enforcement to do their jobs. But in cases like this, like Michael Vaughn's case, when you clearly see that law enforcement's doing what they should be doing, then let's let law enforcement deal with it. Now, there are cases out there like the Delphi case, where here we are coming on 7 years and no one's been arrested in that case. And we know that they've got more footage, that they've got more audio of Bridge Guy that they could release. Maybe it's time to start putting pressure on them to release more information to the public, because it's one of those situations where, yes, you need to let law enforcement do their jobs, but there also comes a time where law enforcement needs to reach out to the resources that are available to them through social media to help bring justice to these victims.
Exactly. If they would help us help them, it would be much easier. There are responsible channels out here that could get that information out to the public in a responsible manner. And the Delphi murders are heartbreaking. And I'm like you, I believe that there's a lot that they haven't let out, that it's time, it's time.
America said, link to your guest channel. I'm already subbed here into Arctic. Well, we're in the works of something, but Garnett doesn't actually have like a well, do you? I mean, you have like a not one where you record and stuff. I mean,
Oh, well, yeah, it's set up. I just need to get on there and finish setting it up. I told you I made you, so you
I
should be able
know I
to
can't.
work on that. We'll work on that and then get the links out.
Yeah, definitely. We have something coming up, and we're sharing channels. Like, Garnett, she can come on here anytime, but basically, we just always go on with each other, even on, so
Right,
wherever
right.
you find me, you'll find her. Wherever you find her, you'll find me. Arctic is, always welcome on panel. We always love having him. If you guys haven't, please go subscribe to his channel, Arctic Fox True Crime.
Yeah. We are trying to form a responsible community here, guys, and that's what we want to do, is because none of us can do this alone.
Exactly. Like I always say, it takes more than a village to um
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the word.
And the issue that's going on, and the reason why we have the creators out there, Sixth Sense, like we do here in the States, is because YouTube is a US company, and these creators and their actions, unfortunate as it is, make money. And it not only does it make those creators money, but it's making YouTube money. And therefore, YouTube's not going to do anything to fix the problem. No matter how many families suffer, no matter how many people get wrongly accused, they don't care, because the bottom line is they're making money.
Yep. It's such a sad situation. And that's why we're doing it like this. Like we have one channel that we work on, because for us it's not about making money. It is about just getting all these cases out here, helping people, making people aware of what's really important, what's really going on in the world. So you definitely have to watch, who you support, who you're subscribed to. But also, you guys, Chris Thorns is live right now. I am about to go watch him because I had went this was a last minute thing. And I was like, oh my God, I finally get to go on a live. So I'm like, I'm here. But
All right, guys.
he even got late for his live just to come on our show to watch for a minute. So I'm gonna head over there. That's the Chris Thorns show. If you guys aren't subscribed, please subscribe. Give our video a thumbs up, and we appreciate you guys for supporting us and sharing. And Arctic, thank you again, as always, for coming on panel.
Anytime.
Thank you, guys.
Thank y'all. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.